Yes, it looks like it's recording now, hopefully. Good. All right, I'm going to go back just for a second. But the most important thing I think in this chapter is when you're allocating costs, when you're trying to determine what you're going to allocate and what you're not going to allocate in terms of departments that service you, it has to be done in a manner in which makes sense, that is actually very, very straightforward, that you can use, you can continually use, that you're not really double dipping. I think this chapter is very, very straightforward. Now, when it talks about using cost allocation methods, I would tell you this chapter is not about a lot of computations that you have not already seen. They're actually pretty intuitive. And if you're looking at any kind of comparison, I would suspect process costing might be a good chapter to review, just because it does give you an idea of the background, I would say, in allocating, because we were allocating manufacturing overhead in those chapters. Here, we're not actually allocating manufacturing overhead. We're taking one department that actually serviced us, and I would say human resource, and say, based on the number of positions that we have in our department, that's going to be our allocation base, for example, allocation base. Based on the number of individuals we hire and we have to maintain their employment records, and we do reports and all of that, we're gonna take this department and allocate it to our service, our production department. What we're trying to do is, how are we using our time? And often your time could be based on the number of people. If you're talking about information systems, again, you can't really put a dollar amount on information technology. You just know you need it. You know that you need to be able to access your computer, that you know that you have to have a new computer, or you need to be able to access the internet, those types of things. It's just, you can't put a dollar amount on it. You just know that these are costs that you need, these are services that you need, and you need somebody that has that expertise that can support you. So cost allocations in services is more like support. Which department has supported your department and allocating those costs appropriately. And it's not necessarily restricted to simply manufacturing environment, but this is a very good place to start, because we've been talking about cost allocation through our manufacturing overhead. So the direct method is really going to be based on departmental costs. This is how much services are in terms of hours. And again, personnel hours is probably a good idea to use, because it makes more sense. It's straightforward, and it's actually commonly used. If you're going to allocate costs from one department to the other, you can use the number of employees as a base, or you can use the service itself as a base. Accounting and information technology, human resources, using it based on a number of employees really makes sense in those cases. And in your chapter, I want to make certain that we go over something too. I was reading through it, and I think what you'll need to get out of this chapter is why we allocate service costs, how we allocate service costs, and what it means to the organization when you're allocating it. Why would an organization decide not to allocate costs to a different department? Why would they not do that? And if you look at a set of financial statements, and you were to see an organization like IBM, I'm going to use IBM for example, and they have 5 or 6 different departments that come up to their set of financial statements. It makes sense to show for them, one department is called administration, and administration could encompass not only human resources, IT, accounting, all of these different services types or departments. They don't generate revenue. That's important. They don't generate revenue, but their costs are kind of important, because if they are providing a service directly to a department, whether it be accounting to IT or IT to accounting, wouldn't it make sense for reporting purposes to show those costs? Why overstate accounting department and understate the information technology department in terms of their cost to run those service organizations? And in my opinion, that's the whole point of all of this. We want to be able to show those departments and their costs, and we want to make certain that any other department that's actually benefiting from those services get those costs allocated, so long as we are aware that we're not going to over allocate and double dip. which will allow us to overstate the costs in one department and maybe understate the costs in another department. So it has to make sense. It has to be realistic, and it has to be straight across the board. I mean, one of the downsides of the direct method, you over allocating. You got to allocate in one direction. Don't go back. Now that it talks about that a little bit. The step method allows you to allocate services to other departments, giving priority to the department that you give most of your time to, and then incrementally to other departments as you provide services, not going over 100%. That's most important. 100% of your services that you provide, only up to 100% should be allocated. Not all of it, not even to a point where it gets to be more of the cost you allocated than you actually incurred. So that's important. And the step method is ensuring of that, going in one direction in terms of your cost allocation and making certain that you do not go back, meaning I'm allocating to IT and I'm allocating to accounting, but I don't want to take my costs and go back and allocate to myself. So that would be an over allocation of costs. So the step method is one method, the direct method is another method. Neither one of those methods are wrong, or neither one are better than the other. It's just what makes more sense for the organization and their objectives and what they're trying to accomplish. And as I mentioned, the step method allocates some service costs to one department and then in a step manner to other departments. And again, the most important thing is in proportion, the order of the proportion of the services. The most services that just provides to the department is allocated first, and then any remaining costs to the other departments in an incremental way. Hopefully I'm going forward. Let's see. Okay. And again, this is the step method. It's not major mathematics. It's actually making sense. If you take the total number of hours and then you allocate those hours based on the number of the organization's use of that particular service department, you come up with a proration. So this is really basic math. I think in this chapter, you won't see anything unusual, basic fundamental mathematics. I think the most important thing when you're going through this chapter is not the math. It's the what, it's the when, and it's the why. The how is all about the math that we see here, and it's very, very straightforward. I don't think at all it's going to be complicated. I just think that you have to remember what method you're using and then the steps that you'll need in order to allocate appropriately. And I believe the homework pretty much provides that. If I'm looking at my homework, I think the homework that you will have in this chapter will really be asking you those kind of questions. How to allocate it based on the step method, how to allocate it based on the net realizable value, determining what is the sales price of your product and your additional processing costs that you'll need to determine that's going to be my allocation base that I'm going to use in allocating costs. Not really difficult stuff. I just think that you just have to just remember what method you're using and why it's important. That's going to be something I'll ask possibly in a question on your homework. The reciprocal methods recognizing services by a department, including those in other departments, is going to be talking about the flow of services from one service to the other. And again, we just want to allocate costs in the most efficient way possible. Let's see if I can see this one here. And again, I think these little diagrams are helpful. Look at the diagram in front of you. You'll see how the departments are actually intertwined with one another, because one is going from information technology to administration, but the administration is providing to a user department, and then it actually also provide services to another department, which is the Hilltop Mine department. And then you'll see how the information technology provides to all, either directly or indirectly. So it's kind of interesting how it all works together. Again, it's all reciprocal. We're providing services to each other, among each other, and making certain that those costs are allocated in such a way that you don't over allocate or under allocate, or in this case, misallocate. So you want to write the costs in each service department in equation form. This is a little basic form. The total service department's cost is equal to the direct cost of that service plus any cost allocated to that service department. And again, in the previous different ratios that I showed before, they're not really hard. It's just when you're trying to allocate based on the department or the direct method, that is a little bit different in terms of how you calculate it than the reciprocal method or the step method. That's why I think it's more important knowing why you're using the method and then calculating how you would allocate those costs. That's just my opinion. And again, this requires a little bit more math than the other two, but again, it's very straightforward. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to determine how much you're going to allocate. So in the textbook, it gives you this really, I wouldn't say funky kind of allocation, but it does make it a little bit more complicated. But if what you're trying to do is what I think should be in your mind first. I am trying to determine how much of my service costs to be allocated. And then the question then becomes, what department am I allocating? And then accumulate those costs and what ratios. And I think I might be able to do a demonstration in an activity in just a minute. I think I may have time to do that. So using the reciprocal method, again, it's all about ratios, what amount of the total cost and the proportion that is going to be allocated to the department. Now, the question I would have of all of you would be, do you have a case where you had an employment situation or a job where you were working? Do you ever have to see, were you ever involved with an organization where you were actually doing costing like this? I'm going to unmute you guys, hopefully, to let me know. And if you were using a cost allocation, does this make sense to you? Can you apply this in real life? What's your opinion on that? Anybody? The question is, in your experience, have you used any type of cost allocation, meaning a service department provides a service to these different departments and your organization wanted to share the cost of that department to other departments? And if you did, what method by which that organization decided to allocate costs?
I haven't personally, with my previous employers, had this. I was actually in a completely different job field. I just worked at a call center for technical support.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't in any of the financial portions of that department.
Okay.
Yeah, neither was I. I was working as a receptionist, so I wasn't involved with any accounting, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, the only thing I can give you an example from my old job. I worked for the company's called Merck. It used to be called Meridian, but the company's called Merck. And Merck was responsible for the manufacture of EpiPens for individuals who have severe allergic reactions. And it also they also created devices for military. When men and women of the military would travel to different countries, they would have these devices to use to protect them from chemical warfare, that sort of thing. And so we had a production department, and the production department was in two pieces. One was the EpiPens, and one was the diazepam, I think they were called, a long time ago. And then I was part of the accounting department. Then we had an accounting department, we had an IT department, and we had a human resources department. And what we wanted to do was take these three service departments, and again, service departments for us was accounting, human resources, and IT, because these departments really didn't do anything but service or support the production departments. That's all we did. That's our job, was support them in any way possible to ensure that that's the revenue that those departments, generated for us. So they made the money for us, but our job was to make it so that they could make the money and they could do it in an efficient way, including having the technology and machinery that they needed. Also the accounting knowledge, meaning my managerial side of things was allowing them to have cost allocation, how much did it cost them, that sort of thing. So it made sense for us to say the cost of your product is not simply indirect cost, meaning the overhead or the depreciation or the factory rent or the supervisory cost, but there are other costs that you absolutely need that you can't say are attributable to a specific pen or batches of pens that we're creating. So they decided within a year of me being on board, we're going to use cost allocation. We're going to use a direct method. It made sense. It was easy. And the auditors felt like if it was not overstating or understating our overall cost, they were okay with it. So what we did was we said, based on the number of people, we used the allocation based on individuals, first of all, how many people we were supporting in those departments. That was the first allocation method we needed. And we also had to say how much of our time was specific to supporting those different departments, because we couldn't take all the costs for the production department. We had to break them out because we had two different products, two different major products that we created. We wanted to make certain those costs were separated. So how much time were we spending and how much manpower, how many individuals supporting these different departments? So we used the direct method. We did not use, I don't know if the reciprocal method was more complicated or not useful, but the direct method worked. It required us to give a very accurate cost allocation, and it allowed us not to overstate the costs. Because when we push those costs to those departments, that's going to be a part of the computation that they use to price their products. So it was essential on many levels that the allocation was accurate and that we didn't overstate, because we would overcharge our clients. Now, don't misunderstand. The products that we provided were essential and people were going to buy it anyway. And for many, many decades with this organization, they cornered the market. There were no other organizations with the patent to create these EpiPens and these different devices for the military. So we had a corner on the market, but we still needed to have our cost control. So that's how we used it. I don't recall ever using the step method. I think we've always leaned on the direct method. I think it was easy for us to understand. It was easier for us to communicate. And not only that, it didn't materially, it wasn't materially different in any other method they had out there. So we used the direct method. Now, I would say in the real world, I would think more likely the step or the direct method would be most likely used by organizations. But I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've been a management accountant. But I think the step method is another method I think is important too, and it's very, very popular, as is the direct method. But don't discount the reciprocal method. I will have a couple questions, a couple of items that you'll probably have to work through in your homework. But just note the differences among them, understand their role, why they're important, and understand how to make the computations, the accurate computations. And that would be the last step. So as you're reading, what are you doing? Why you're doing it, and then only then how you do it, which would be important. Now, the next part of your chapter is going to be talking about joint costs. A joint cost. I don't have experience personally with joint costs, but I'm certain that there are costs that gives you more than one output, I would say. So that's going to be the part of your chapter I think is quite straightforward. All you're doing is allocating costs that have two or more outputs. And again, it becomes important. I think it might very well be similar to a process cost, where you have a cost that's all about this one big conglomerate of process, and you have to, and then in that process of making cereal, you might decide to make Frosted Flakes in one set or one batch, and Honey Nuts of Oats in another batch, but the process is still the same. So I'm not really sure about that, but in the end of it, what you're doing is you're going to show how to allocate costs that are joint. And this particular section does have a lot of terminology in it. I wouldn't get too upset about that. I think the most important thing that you're trying to understand is how do you allocate costs that's considered joint, and what are the circumstances by which a cost is considered joint. That would be more important than anything. And the methods by which you will allocate it. And I think we are going to talk about a couple of them here. So why are we going to allocate it? Most often it's inventory, I think. It could very well be because of executives, but for the most part, For our organization, we really need to be certain about our inventory. Inventory was the primary way that an organization generated revenue. And having an idea of what your value is, the value of your inventory is, by costing is extremely important. So joint costs being allocated using the net realizable value or the physical quantities method. Again, the organization I work for, we didn't have joint costs, but I can see how the net realizable value method can be extremely important, because as you know, on financial statements that we see, everything is historical costs. Everything is historical costs. There's nothing really that tells you exactly what the value is of a particular asset at any point in time, because we are always looking at how much did we spend on it. What is the historical cost? So managerial accounting goes out on a limb here by using the net realizable value. Physical quantities method may very well be important as well, I would assume, depending on the type of organization and the products that they sell. So what you need to know about the net realizable method is really how it's calculated. And that's going to be important too. It's not calculated in any way. You don't have to worry about statistics. I think we were talking about CVP in my other class. I think you might get involved in that in this point. But we use the cost volume analysis. And what was very interesting was it deviated a lot out of basic accounting and a little bit of algebra, and it's jumped right into statistics. And students were like really livid because we're being taught statistics. And I was very, very upset about that. Like, I really don't want to discourage students, particularly in this course, because statistics is not accounting. It really isn't. But they threw statistics in there. So it was kind of an interesting situation dealing with regressions and all of that. And it was just, I had to give a lot of support here. In this case, in net realizable value, I think your textbook is pretty straightforward. I really don't think it goes so deep, which I think will be helpful to all of you. So using the net realizable value, we want to know how much it costs. How much does it cost us? What's the sales price? But we're going to also deal with a little more information, like any additional processing costs. So you don't have to worry too much about statistics and formulas and all of that. What's the sales price? And then what are the additional costs associated with processing this product? And that will give you the best guess of the net realizable value. Again, we're doing a lot of estimates in this particular course. Nothing really is absolute, because we're deviating from GAAP, because we are not reliant on historical costs. A lot of everything that we're doing is estimates, guessing, using some assumptions, and so forth. This is no exception. So you're going to be using quite a bit of guessing in this, but that's okay. We already know that that's what we're going to do, and as long as the reasonableness of our guesses, and we can support our guesses, and then at the end of a year, we can look back and say, this guess was not the best. We deviated a little bit too far. We need to rethink about our analysis. So you're going to be guessing. It's going to be an estimate. It's okay. And it's just giving you, this particular example here is just giving you a basic formula when you're calculating the net realizable value. And if you can see the sales value of it and any allocated joint cost gives you your gross margin. Again, not a lot of math, but there is some math in this. Very, very straightforward math. So in this chapter, I want to take a minute, if it's okay with all of you, to not lecture so much, but try to do a problem if I can. So if you give me a second here, I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to try to share the McGraw-Hill. And I want you to tell me if that you can see it. So right now I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to go to let's see if I can do this. Right now, your screen should be blank. You should only be able to see me, hopefully.
Correct, yes.
Okay, good. Now, but as soon as I get this thing set up, you should see the assignment view. And I'm going to get my cheat sheet because I want to go through this carefully, and I want you guys to help me. All right. I'm going to do this as an assignment from a student view. All right, just give me a second. All right, continue. Okay, so now let's do the share screen again. Let's see. Hopefully this works. By the time I get this to work for me, by the time I fully understand how to use Zoom, the semester will be over.
It works. We could see it.
Good. All right, I'm going to try to see if I can demonstrate. It's a lot of information on the screen. So I'm going to be looking down, not looking at my camera, just so you know I'm paying attention. It's just that there's a lot of information on the screen. Now, if we go down to the bottom, and what I suggest, whenever you're doing your homework, this is just my suggestion. When you're looking at a problem of this size, look at this problem. It's just huge. All of this information, then it's a narrative and all, just too much to look at. I suggest, this is just my opinion, go down to the bottom and find out exactly what the problem is asking you to do. It just makes it so much easier. So with all of this data, we are going to look at this particular problem. And we're filling out a little worksheet, and the worksheet is with allocating our costs. So let's look at requirement A. Using the step method, determine the allocated cost and the total cost in each of the two producing departments. Ignore self-usage. Rank order the allocation as follows: maintenance, accounting, and administration. So let's deal with the first one. We're going to use the step method. Now let's take a look at the data that they're providing to us. So, and now if we're looking at maintenance department, maintenance has got costs, and we've got to determine that. Now let's look at some more information here. It says here, model produces automobiles made from metal. It operates 2 production departments, molding and painting, and it has 3 service departments, and we know about those. The accumulated costs in the 3 service departments are $250,000, $400,000, and $200,000 respectively. Again, so the $250 is going to be the administration, $400 is going to be the accounting, and I would assume $200 is going to be the maintenance. Okay. Management is concerned that the cost of these service departments are getting too high. In particular, management would like to keep these costs of service under $3.50 per unit on average. You've been asked to allocate costs, service costs to these 2 production departments and compute unit costs. All right, so the company has decided to use the administrative costs, could be allocated on the basis of square footage used by each department of the service. Accounting costs are allocated based on the number of employees, and maintenance costs are allocated on the basis of dollar value of equipment in each department. So if we're going to do maintenance department first, what are our direct costs? Now, if we look at the information here, we have direct costs. The molding department is $237,000. Indirect materials, $337. Indirect labor, $112,500 in maintenance. Overhead. The painting has $210 in direct costs, $200,000 in direct labor, and $75,000 in overhead. So what we want to do, we're allocating these costs. So the first thing we want to do in this cell here, here, and here, we want to put the direct costs, and we were given that. So maintenance is $200,000, and I'm going to put that on here. So far, so good?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. The accounting is, I got to keep scrolling up, sorry guys, but I remember this stuff. Accounting is $400,000, I think. Yes. Yes. And then administration is $250,000. Now we're going to allocate. Let's do the maintenance. Let's do the allocation of the $200,000. Does that make sense to you guys? We'll deal with accounting and administration in a minute. So how much are we going to allocate? We're going to first remove all of these costs and spread them over. So I'm going to put a negative here. Hopefully it likes that. I haven't used this in a while, so I'm not sure if it'll get mad at me. Okay, it looks like it's okay. All right, So now let's allocate the maintenance. If we go back to the instructions, I'm going to read again. It says here, maintenance is, management is concerned, let's see, maintenance costs are allocated on the basis of dollar value of equipment in each department. So if I look at this information here, and I'm looking at maintenance, that's $20,000, right? See, let's look at that. So we're going to allocate the maintenance first. Building area is $20,000, and I might have to use my here. So how are we going to do the allocation of those costs? How much is accounting going to get? How much is administration going to get? And how much is molding and painting? So if we think about that, how much accounting is going to get? Accounting has 10 employees. What do you guys think? Accounting is, we're doing accounting. We're taking the monies and we're allocating part of it to the accounting department. How much are we going to allocate of that $200,000 to our accounting department?
Sorry, you kept scrolling up and down.
Oh, I know. I'm so sorry. It's because how much can you guys see? I will leave it still for a second. We want to take, now, first of all, we're going to take the 200,000, right? It's in the maintenance and we're going to allocate it straight across. Remember, we can't go back. We have to go forward. So all of the cost of maintenance is going to go away. So I eliminated it or put a negative sign there. Now, how much of that 200,000 we're going to put into the accounting department? Now, if we look at the instructions, let's see, it's a lot of information here, which takes a little long to think about it. Let's see, accounting costs are allocated on the basis of employees. Maintenance costs allocated on the basis of dollar value of equipment. On the use of each base by department using the period is so as follows. The accounting department has $120 of equipment. Okay. So what do you think? Should we use the $17.50 or should we use the 120?
Let's try
20.
Let's try one at a time.
Yes, we're doing one at a time. Yeah, we're not gonna do them all at once. Let's deal with accounting. We're gonna take our maintenance cost of 200,000. We're gonna split it. We're gonna spread it over to the accounting department, to the administration, the molding, and the painting. So how much are we gonna allocate to our accounting department? If we say, and I wonder if I can do this on my screen. I'm going to do it on paper, and then I'm going to try to explain what we're doing. Taking the information that we have, let's see, our 200,000 is going to be our base. And if we say, right, if we look at, let's see, accounting, number of employees is 10 and the cost is 120. I'm going to do my division here. 120, I'm going to divide it into 10. No, I'm sorry. Yes. Well, let's see. Oh, okay. And maintenance says it's going to be allocated based on the department's dollar value. If the department is $120 times 10 people, I get $1,200. So I take that and I'm dividing it through. Hold on. Now, what I'm looking at is there's a couple things going on. If we're going to be allocating the cost for maintenance based on the cost of equipment, we know that the equipment value for the accounting department is $120, assuming $120 per person. So if we take that 1,200, which is the multiplication of 10 people times $120, I get 1,200. I divide that in, I'm thinking that's about 10%. That's what it seems to me. Yes, that's what it looks like to me. Let's see. Let's take that number here. So if I say 400,000 of my 200,000 and divided by 0.10, so if I'm going to allocate 200,000, and what is my ratio then is going to be 20, 120. Let's do it. 10 people plus 18 people plus 12 people plus 70 plus 100. I got 210 people. Oops. Go back up. 210 people. Just 1 second. Okay. So I take $120 and I'm going to divide that by, hold on, I'm seeing something here. Make sure I'm taking my 120 and I'm dividing it. I'm missing a piece here. Hold on. Okay. I'm missing a piece here. What is my cost here? Let's see. Because I need the $120 and I need to divide that 120 into a cost, but I'm trying to find it here. A lot of data. Where is it? Hold on a second. If I take and add all of my costs together, which is $120 plus, I believe that's it, right? $120 plus $312 plus $162. I'm off by $6. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. What we need to do first is we have to consider everything in the maintenance department is based on cost of equipment. So we have to add these numbers together, the $6, the $120, etc. To add those numbers, I come up to 600. I'm going to add them again to make certain, but I add $6 plus $120 plus $312 plus $162. I get $600. And remember, I'm not adding the maintenance in here. I'm only adding the 120, the 312, and the 162. Now that becomes my base. So if I have $600 is the cost that we're using to allocate, I need to divide that by the 120, which is the accounting. So if I take 120 and divide it into 600, I should come up with my number. Good, I get 0.20. So 0.20, and I'm gonna multiply, hopefully this works, multiply times the 400. See. Now, the fraction, now the answer then becomes, if we're gonna calculate our costs for the accounting department, we need to be able to tell 0.20 is going to be our numerator. So we're going to be taking the proportion of 0.20, which is the accounting department, multiplying that numerator by the 200,000. Now, what becomes our denominator is going to be important. Now, what is our denominator? Well, we know if we take the 20 or the 600, which is a combination of administration, our 120 for our accounting, the 312 and the painting, we come up with 600. We need to know the pro rata portion of each one of those different departments. 0.20 is part of it. Then we have to add the administration. So we do the same kind of calculation and we say administration is $6 divided into 600 gives us 0.01. And I want to show you this, I think, in an Excel spreadsheet because it thinks a little bit better. So let me do something else. Let me show you exactly what I'm doing here. I'm going to share my Excel spreadsheet. Hopefully this will work. Let's see. I'm going to see. Oh, no, I'll use my whiteboard. Look at that. I'll use my whiteboard. Okay. Now, with the instructions, we need to find out, we need to be able to see how to calculate. It lets me. Now, let's see. Now, what we want to do is calculate the denominator. If I can get this to work. Hold on. Let's clear this. And I don't want to draw. Okay. All right. We know the maintenance department is going to be excluded. We want to have accounting. Accounting is 120 in cost. We add to that the cost that is administration, which is $4. To that we add 312. To that we add 162. This, it gives you an equivalent of 600. Now, the portion that is accounting is 120 divided by 600. The next proportion is going to be 4 divided by 600. And the next is going to be 312 divided by 600. And then the final piece is 162 divided by 600. These
number, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but instead of being 4, it should be 6.
Oops. Yes, sorry. Now, for 120, this equals 0.2, I think. Is 6 over 600. Hold on, let me use my calculator. 6 divided into 600 gives you 0.01. This equals 0.01. Then I'm going to space here. The 312, which is the equivalent of molding department, this equals, and again, I'm taking 312 and I'm dividing it by 600. I get 0.52. I believe that's right. Yes, 0.52. Space a little bit. And then I take the 162 divided by 600. I get 0.27. Now, let me tell you what I'm doing. Now, we first have to say, we want to allocate to the accounting department. And it's allocated based on the cost of the equipment. So what I did was I took the cost of the equipment, which was given to me for all the departments with the exception of the maintenance. We don't care about the maintenance. We're allocating all of this cost over. So I took all the costs. Then I had to isolate the accounting. How do I do all of that? What I'm doing is I'm taking this formula, and hopefully you can see it. I'm going to move this up a little bit. I'm taking this formula and I'm saying, if my accounting department allocation is what I'm doing first, my accounting allocation is 0.2. So I'm taking 0.20 and I'm dividing it by the sum of all of these. And I'm going to put it in parentheses. 0.20 plus 0.01 plus 0.52 plus 0.27. Hopefully I got it right. Let's make sure I got them all right on here. I hope so. 0.1, 0.2, 0.52, and 0.27. Good. All right. So to make this calculation work, and again, it's going to be the same for the others, but for now, we're just dealing with the accounting side of it. I take 0.2 and I divide it by 0.20, 0.01, 0.52, and I multiply this by what? What am I going to multiply this by? This whole mess. I'm going to multiply it times the 200,000, which is the cost associated with the maintenance department. And I'm going to do this off the screen and I'll put the answer. So if I take 0.2, 0.01, 0.52, and 0.27 and add them together to get a number, I'm going to take that number and divide it by 0.2. The 0.20 plus 0.01 plus 0.27 plus 0.52 gives me, and I take all three of those numbers, I'm going to divide it by 0.20 times 200,000. A number should be working. It does, finally, good Lord. I get 40,000. It gets to be a little bit hairy. I'm going to continue on this whiteboard. So the cost that I'm allocating, the $200,000 of cost I'm allocating, 40,000 relates to accounting department. And because I don't like to change this, I'm going to see if I can continue this box. Hopefully I can make it bigger. Hold on. Let's see if I can make it bigger. First of all, I want to make sure you can see what I'm doing. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. That's the first one. Now I'm going to get out of here and put my number into, I'm going to jump back, but I'm going to unsave or unshare. And I'm going to go back to our assignment, which is right here. And then plug the number in. Now, as you can see, we're allocating the maintenance cost, but we had to go through a formula to do that. So I'm going to allocate the 40,000 that relates to accounting department. I think I should put it here. I have to see if it's right. I hope this is right. I'm going to check my answer before I go too far. Let's see. I wonder if it lets me check my answer. Okay. So that's, no, actually, I think I need to put it up here. Now let's do the administration. That's how I've allocated. I'm going to go back to my administration. I'm going to stop share. This is a little strange, but this is just how it works with this particular program. I'm gonna go back to my whiteboard. And as you can see in the whiteboard, you see that I have made the calculation for 40,000 for the accounting. Now I'm going to use the administration. Administration is 0.01. So if I do the same calculation, and I'm going to say 0.01 divided by the sum of these numbers again, multiplied by 200,000, should give me, again, the portion that relates to, and I'm gonna use this, I'm gonna do it on my cell phone, because I just can't manipulate it on here. So again, we're talking about the same thing. We're allocating costs, and if you think about it, the numbers should be lower. One. I'm getting 2,000. Hopefully that's right. I hope I'm right. I hope I'm right, guys. Now I'm gonna again do my little thing. I'm gonna stop sharing here and then share the assignment. Put that in there, and it's the same thing over here. 2,000. And I'm gonna put. I think I put it on the right line. All right.
Can we check?
Yeah, I don't know how to check. Where is it?
Just check my work on the top on the right side.
Your window might be over it. Your little square window. If you drag that window down, there should be a blue rectangle that says check my work right underneath help, save and exit and submit.
There you go. We got to check before we go any further.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the answer's not
Yay.
good. Now, again, I think, let me go back to the question. Tell me if you can still see.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It gets sorry, hold on.
Yeah, it's really a long way to do it. I wonder if there's any shorter way.
Oh, God, help us all. Help us all. That's, I think, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that's the nature of the beast with this particular. Let me see if I can, I don't want to hide, but it might be just best to hide it for now because it gets in my way. Now, let's do the remaining costs. Molding. I'm going to go back and switch my view again. This is absolutely insane, but I'm going to switch my view again because I want you to see what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing. Now, remember we had right up in here, let me see, the costs associated with the molding department. I got to get that right. That is $312. So that's going to be the 312 over 600, which is 0.52. So we're going to do the same thing. So let's go back and do text. Let me go back here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. If you take 0.52, well, actually, yeah, 0.52, and we're going to divide it by the sum of all those numbers. 0.2 plus 0.01 plus 0.52 plus 0.27. I'm going to multiply by the 200,000. Let's get a computation. If we calculate that, again, it's going to be the same pro rata. It's based on cost. I think the hardest part here, to me, I believe the hardest part of all of this is remembering the cost allocation method that this particular problem is asking you to use. So if I do it right, hopefully my numbers should come up to be, let's think, we're talking for the molding department. Thinking the molding. Should be around 100,000, but I gotta make sure my numbers work. So hold on a second. Should work. Yes, it did work. Oh goodness, it was such a pain to do that. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my other, that's going to be 0.27. I'm just going to do it, not on the whiteboard.
What do you think if we subtract all these numbers from 200,000?
Should
Wouldn't that-
equal. It better equal. It better equal, because again, that was one of the downsides to all of this. When you're trying to allocate, you don't want to over allocate, and
Right.
it's going to be 100%. We want to make sure 100% of the maintenance cost is being spread to the other departments. But we can't do anything else until we make certain that's important. So the ratio, if you add the numbers together, 0.27, 0.52, point whatever, it all should be 100%. And you should not start allocating until you know that you're at 100%.
Mhm.
Is it you're going to allocate all of it? We're allocating all of 200,000. So our ratio in total has to equal or be the equivalent of 100% based on the requirements of this particular problem. So we allocated the cost of the maintenance department. Now we're going to allocate the cost to the accounting department. And the accounting department now has 440,000 costs to allocate, right? Because we've allocated everything over. Let me get my mouse here. I had to go back to my instructions. The accounting department, let's see. Accounting is are allocated based on number of employees. So we have to go back onto the top of the screen to look at the number of employees. We've got 18, and I'm going to ignore, when you're doing it based on number of employees, you have to ignore the accounting department, okay? Like we ignored the maintenance department. We're going to ignore everything except for these people. So I'm taking the 18 plus the 12 plus 18 plus 70 plus 100. Does that make sense so far? We must ignore accounting because we're allocating accounting. So we don't want to add it, but it'll give us skewed numbers. So 18 plus 12 plus 70 plus 100. That should give us, I'm going to use my calculator, 12 plus 18 plus 70 plus 100. 200 people. So if we're going to do it based on number of people, how are we going to do it? 440. Now, it may not be too bad because what we're going to do is do the same kind of allocation that we did before. 12 out of 200, right?
Mhm.
18 out of 200. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, 70 out of 200, and then 100 out of 200. If we take that pro rata, I'm gonna go back. It's acting crazy. Hold on. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna stop sharing, and I want to just so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna share my whiteboard again. I want to clear everything off of here. Clear all drawings. Clear. All right, let's do this again, but let's do it. Text. Hopefully. I'm gonna make this big so you can see it. Okay, now let's deal with it. If we take all of these individuals, we're gonna say 12 out of 200 is one ratio. 18 out of 200 is another ratio. 70 out of 200. And then we have 100 out of 200. So let's look at the ratio. This one here is easy because it's like 0.5, I believe. And then let's go to the other ones. If you look at 12 out of 200, that gives us a ratio of something. Hold on. Take 12 divided by 200. Our ratio is 0.06. And then we do the same thing with 18. 18 divided by 200 gives us the same thing, 0.09. All right, so I think we're on the right track, right?
Yes.
You miss anybody? You miss anybody?
70 divided by 200.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
17 divided by 200. I knew we was missing something. Let me do that ratio real quick. 17 divided by 200 gives us 0.0 0.85. Now what we can do on this particular sheet here is just multiply them out. Take 0.06 times what? The cost is 440, right?
Well, is the cost 440 or is it the 400?
440, because we remember we allocated 40,000.
Okay. I didn't know if it went to the total or if you used the original amount.
The total. Yeah, that's why we had to do the maintenance department first, then we had to do the accounting department, then we had to do the administration, and then and only then can we do the molding and painting. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the first one. I'm not gonna calculate just yet. I'm just gonna put the formulas up there. Okay, so 18 over 20 gives us 0.09 times the 440. Space again, the point, oh, is it 70 over 200 or 17?
70.
70. Hold on, I'm fixing that. It's 70 over 200. And the number, hold on, that would have been a mess. Hold on. It's 70 divided by 200 gives us 0.35. 0.35. Sorry about that. Okay, so we got the 0.06. We've got the 0.09. Then we've got the 0.35 multiplied times the 440. And the final one is going to be the 0.5, right? Times 440. Now let's just put the numbers in here. I'm gonna write them down though. Let's calculate. If we take our 0.06 times 440, we get 26,000. We get 26,400. I'm gonna put that on here real quick. I don't know why it's doing this to me. Be nice, be nice. This equals 26,400. 0.09 times 440 gives us 39,000. 39,600. Whoops. 600. The 0.35, I'm going to scroll over, gives us 0.35 times 440, 154. And then 0.50, that's going to be 220, I think. I'll just do it for the sake of it. 440 times 0.5. Yeah, 220. All right, so now I'm writing them down because I gotta be sure. We have 26,400, and that's gonna be the 0.06. Then we had the 0.09, that's gonna be 39,600. And then we got the 0.50, that's 220,000. And then the other one, which is 0.35, that is 154,000. Hopefully I won't make a mistake. Now I'm going to switch back. And let's see. I'm going to, let's bring this back. Okay. I can get this back. Hold on a minute. Oh, stop share. I'm going to go back to our class assignment. If I can do this. I'm blank for right now. Don't worry. I'm going to get it back. Here we go. There we go. Now, Now remember, when we went through maintenance, we took all of our cost of maintenance, we spread it all the way over. Now we got to take our accounting department, but we're not going to just allocate the 400,000, we're going to allocate the total. So now I'm going to take those costs and I'm going to allocate them, I believe, on this line. I think that's what it likes. So administration is going to be, let's see. I got the numbers right. I just got to put them in the right place. 0.06 is, hopefully I got it right. Yes. All right. The first one I'm going to allocate is the 26,004. I hope I don't have them in the wrong place. You get what I mean? Because we did a lot of ratios here. The molding, actually, I think it's going to be the 39,600, I believe. I will definitely check this, make sure I didn't put in the wrong space. And then molding is going to be, I look at the number of employees. Molding is 70 employees. So 0.70 is, make sure. I got so many numbers here. 0.70. All right, 154, which we calculated. And then the painting, I would assume it's going to be the 220. Hopefully I didn't. Okay. Now I'm going to check my work to make before we go any further. These are one of the questions that you really got to make certain. Do I have in the wrong direction? Oh goodness. What did I do wrong? I'm a little off. Let's see. Oh, I know what I did wrong. I know what I did wrong. Let's go back. We have already allocated all our costs out of maintenance. So I shouldn't be using the maintenance at all. Gosh, let me change this. Go back to the question. There we go. There we go. Now I can understand what we did. Let me go back. Let's go back to our meeting board. And let me show you what I did, which I should not have done. What we are going to do is allocate the cost for the remaining departments. So if I take the accounting department, which is 10 employees out of, let's see, I know what I did. All right. We've got 10 employees, 18 employees. We've got 70 employees, and we've got 100 employees, 198. Let's make sure I'm right. Again, we're ignoring the maintenance department because we've already allocated them, and we should be ignoring the accounting department. So I'm gonna take 18 plus 70 plus 100. That's a little bit different. That gives me a different denominator. Do you see what I'm saying here? What I did was I was including administration and accounting, and I shouldn't have. I mean, administration and maintenance, not administration, but maintenance and accounting in my total number of employees, which gave me a different denominator. So if I take that, so if I do it in the correct way, meaning my denominator is 188 as opposed to 200, that gives me a different ratio. So if I say my denominator is 188 and I take 18 over 188, which is my administration, and I take 70 over 188 and 100 over 188. That's what happens. So let's do it. 18 over 188 gives you 70 over 188. And then the last department in this case is 100 over 188. Multiply that times the 440. Okay. 18 divided by 188 times 440 gives me 42,000. All right, that's what we did. Let's go back. Easy mistake, and it's a good, I guess it's good to know it now. So my first is going to be 42,127. 128, I'm going to round up. Then I'm going to do the same thing for molding. Molding is going to be 70 over 188. And it should be 163,830. 163,830. I think this is going to come up right this time. Yay! All right. All right. Then we take the 100 divided by 188, multiply 140. And now we get 234. 34,043. It rounds. Now let's check our work. I think I did it right. Yes. All right. So, and one of the things I think I need to make clear, when we're allocating using the step method, again, once we have completely allocated that cost and moved it all the way over to the other departments, then and only then can we say, okay, now we're going to allocate administration, and we're not going to include maintenance. We're not going to include accounting because they're already costed out or their costs been allocated. Now we're going to start with administration. Administration's cost is going to be allocated based on, let's see, I believe it says administration cost is allocated based on square footage. All right, so if we look at our details, the square footage for each one, and remember, we are not dealing with accounting, we're not dealing with maintenance. We're going to be allocating costs here based on these remaining departments. And administration, it is, we're talking 360,000 versus 90,000. So I'm going to take those two costs or two square footage, 360 plus 90, add those together. And that gives me a total square footage to work with. So 360,000 plus 90,000 gives me 450. And now if we then take the two items here and find what the pro rata is, we say 360 over 450,000, 90,000 over 450,000. And we're going to multiply that number by our cost that we've accumulated, which is the 294,128. 294,128. 294,128. So let's go back to our question. And we're going to do the calculation. It's the same calculation, different base. So now I'm going to take the cost for administration and I'm going to allocate it out. Now, if I say 360, again, I'm looking at the molding department is going to be first. So I'm going to take that pro rata, which is 360,000 divided by 450, multiply times 294,128, which is the cost. I get 235,302. And then we'll do the same thing here. I'm going to take the 90,000 divided into 450, multiply by the 294,128, and I get 58,826. And again, I'm rounding. Now let's check our work. Hopefully this works fine. It does. That is the step method. And it took me a little bit to do it because it's a little bit awkward using this process. So using the step method, what I would certainly say to all of you, to you, is when we're trying to compute the cost based on the step method, we are going to be clearing and moving all the way over all of our costs from one department all the way over to the other departments. Once that department has been allocated, we're not going to go back, which is like, so if, for example, we're going to go back and allocate these costs. No, once the cost has been moved forward, we're moving forward, and we're not going to go any further with that. So we've already allocated those costs. And then our next step would then be to allocate the remaining costs for these two departments, meaning here we are. Let's see. If we take the molding costs, I think we got the costs here, 237,337. Let's take these costs and add them together to finish up part B. So if I take the 237,500, which is right here, 237,500, and I add the 337,500, and I add the overhead of 112,500, I get 687,500. 687,500. Then the next step will be to do the same with the painting cost, and that's 210,000 added to 200,000 added to the 75,000. I get 485. Hopefully this is, I had to add this twice. And now I'm going to check my work to make certain that this problem, at least part A, is done correctly. And the answer is right. Okay, go back. Now, I don't want to belabor this, but that is essentially the hardest part of all of this. It's not complicated at all. It's just requires a little bit more attention and to be very, very careful when you allocate. We're using the step method and we're allocating our costs step by step by step by step. But once we've allocated maintenance, we don't need to allocate anything backwards, back to them. We're just going forward. Once we allocated maintenance and accounting, we have to go from administration to molding to painting. We're always going forward, never going back. And the pro rata calculations are pretty straightforward because you guys got it. I just want to make sure that that's very clear. As you can see here, once we've allocated the cost of maintenance, we added it all to the other departments. Accounting cost changed. It increased because we allocated 40,000 to it. That means we have to allocate 440 to eliminate it. And then we took the same process with the administration. We've allocated both the maintenance and the accounting to administration, getting us a total cost to be moved to or allocated to molding and printing, which we have done. So these departments essentially have been zeroed out. And what I didn't do correctly here, and I'm going to do, is 294,128, and here 440. And now hopefully my answer is absolutely totally correct. Let's see what I have. What did I do wrong here?
The 440 should be up one line in the accounting.
Oh, I tell you, I will do just that. But this should help you with your homework. Let's get rid of this. All right, let's try it. Good. And now we've allocated all. Now remember, this is where you stop. Why? Because we're allocating service costs. And these departments that we've allocated, maintenance, accounting, and administration, are service costs. And we're allocating the service cost departments to the molding and painting. And we did it in a step-by-step process. That's all it is. So the question then becomes, are we done? And the answer is, for part A, we are done. Let's look and see what part B says and see if we have a little bit more time. What is the unit cost? Let's see. It'll take us forever to do this. Let's see if it does. I don't want to, now look, I will stop here if you want me to. Do you want me to stop? Because you're outside. Oh my goodness, you're outside. If you want me to stop, we can stop here. I mean, this is as hard. It's not really hard. It's a little bit cumbersome for me because I'm having to switch back and forth and do all that kind of stuff, but it's actually pretty intuitive. You know, you're doing it step by step by step. So if you want us to do part B, we can. You want to do part B? I'm okay if you want to stop. You want
It doesn't matter to me.
Let me get you started on it. Let me see how bad it is. Okay. Assume that now part B is asking us basically what the unit cost would be, but we need to figure out molding, and for molding is how much? Okay, molding is 1,163,200. 119. Let's put it in here. Hold on. Should let me put my answers in here.
Oh, you have to do return the question on the top right.
Oh, very good. Thank you. The answer is not too bad. It's not too bad, actually, because we've actually done most of the work. I'm going to put the cost in here, 11932, 19632. And then the painting, we've got 831. Didn't like that.
Well, shouldn't we divide it by 100,000 units?
No. Oh, right. There you go. Gosh. Wait a minute. So 11932, 1190632 divided by 100,000. Hold on. Got that right. Thank you. Stress at the biggest level. 1190632 divided by 100,000. All right, here we go. $11.91, I think. Hopefully it won't kick me out. Let's do the same thing here. If we take the 831,000, which is right here, we take this number here, 869. Let's see, 831,868 divided by 100,000. 832. 8.32. Hopefully this is right. Let's see. Good job. Good. All right. Now, I will try to do a video and I will record it, showing you or demonstrating how to use the other method. I think it was the direct method. I think it might be. And look at this question here, the direct method, and see if we have another method. We can just go over it. We'll have to see. I'll try to do that. But the end of the day is, if we take your time, I think you can get through this chapter. It's not a lot of computations in that you have to learn something new. You've already know how to prorate things, and we did that in other types of assignments in other chapters. I wish you the best on this, and I thank you very much for your time. I'm going to unshare at this point. And what I have done, if I did it right, I was able to save and record this. I'm going to do everything in my power not to put this on YouTube. But if it doesn't work, I will put it on YouTube and make it a private video. Do you get what I mean? Because people want to show their faces on YouTube, you know what I mean? So, and I respect that. So I will try to save this as a regular Zoom recorded session. But if I'm not able to upload it, I will switch it over to a private YouTube video. So let me know if you have any other questions or you need anything else. I will do everything